Welcome back to the deep dive. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. Usually, we ease into things here.
A little bit of a warm-up.
Exactly, a warm-up. Today, there is no warm-up. We are jumping straight into the fire.
I can tell.
But before we do that, I have one job for you. Look at your screen, hit that like button, and please make sure you're subscribed.
It really does help us out.
It does. We are growing this community, and trust me, you do not want to miss what we have coming down the pipeline.
Especially if today's topic is any indication of where we're heading.
Absolutely. Today, we aren't just, summarizing a book. We're unpacking a weapon.
That's a good way to put it.
We are doing a deep, unfiltered analysis of an ebook that actually describes itself as a war manual for the modern man.
Okay.
It's titled Redpilled Father Lessons for Life About Out-of-Control Women, and it's written by Conrad Reicher. Now, full disclaimer,
Right.
This is not a polite book. It's not a book you read to feel fuzzy inside. It's explosive.
Explosive is putting it mildly. Riker isn't writing for the general public here.
Yeah.
He's writing specifically for men who feel like the modern world, the courts, the dating market, the workplace, is rigged against them.
Right.
He calls it a survival guide for those who have been, and this is his quote, gutted, used, and discarded.
And look, we can only cover so much in 15, maybe 16 minutes. So if you want the full arsenal, and I mean the raw, unedited strategies,
You need the source material.
you have to get it. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now and buy this ebook. Put it on your phone. Read it when you're alone, because I'm telling you, Riker is saying the quiet parts out loud.
And to really understand this book, you have to understand the worldview. The title itself uses the term red-pilled.
From The Matrix.
Exactly. For anyone who might not be deep in these internet subcultures, it's a reference to the Matrix. You take the red pill, you wake up to a painful reality.
Or you take the blue pill and stay in the comfortable delusion.
And the delusion, according to Conrad Reicher, is the nice guy narrative.
That's the core of it, isn't it?
It's the absolute foundation. We grow up with this script, right? If you're kind, if you're vulnerable, if you're a supportive partner and a good provider,
You'll be rewarded.
you'll be rewarded with loyalty and love. Riker takes a sledgehammer to that entire idea. He argues that this narrative is a fundamental lie told by a society that wants compliant worker drones, not strong men.
He literally starts the book with a warning label. He says something like, if you're a snowflake or you believe in Disney endings,
Put the book down.
yeah, put the book down and go get a soy latte. He says this is for men who are ready to rebuild from the ashes.
It's a roadmap for what he calls the autonomous man. But to get there, he says you first have to understand the battlefield.
And that first battlefront, it's the concept of love itself.
This is where things get controversial right out of the gate.
He challenges the very definition of love. He says men and women, they just don't love the same way.
It's a biological argument, really. He posits that men love, idealistically, they love the woman for who she is. But Riker argues that women love strictly based on trade. He literally writes, women don't love, they trade.
Wow.
He views female affection as a transaction for security, status, and utility.
That is a brutal assessment. He's basically saying, she didn't marry you for your soul. She married you because your job provides the safety net.
And because of that transactional nature, he argues that vulnerability, which society tells men is a strength, is actually a trap.
The cult of vulnerability.
He calls it the cult of vulnerability. The world tells men, open up, cry, share your fears. Riker says that is a lie designed to test your weakness.
And when a man shows weakness.
Riker argues a woman's biological imperative kicks in, and she just loses respect for him. She can't help it.
He uses this really visceral image to prove his point, the parking lot anecdote. I think this is going to stick with every guy listening.
Oh, it's powerful. He describes a scene where a husband is literally crying in a parking lot, begging his wife not to leave him.
Pouring his heart out.
Right. And who is she leaving him for? The pool guy.
The pool guy.
It's a contrast of archetypes. The husband is showing maximum vulnerability, tears, pleading, communicating his feelings.
And the pool guy.
He's just in the background. He just fixed the filter and stood tall.
Fixed the filter and stood tall.
That's the phrase. Riker's analysis is that the woman despises the weeping husband because he signals instability.
He's a liability.
He's a liability. She respects the pool guy because he signals competence and stoicism. The pool guy isn't begging. He's solving a problem. Riker says that competence is the only thing that negotiates desire. If you're the crying husband, you've already lost.
And this leads directly into what he calls shit tests. I feel like most guys have experienced this, but just didn't have the vocabulary for it.
I think so. He says women are constantly running these little stress tests on men.
And it's evolutionary.
He argues it's evolutionary. A woman needs to know, is this man a rock or is he sand? So she tests you.
Like the girl in high school ignoring you.
That's a test. Your wife picking a fight right before you have a big presentation. A test. Riker says they're not always malicious. They're instinctual checks to see if you will crumble.
So if you get angry, you fail. If you apologize, you fail. So, what's the winning move? He talks about this green beret glare.
Yeah, this is a psychological tactic.
Yeah.
Riker advises that when a woman disrespects you or tries to bait you into an argument, you just don't engage verbally. You don't defend yourself. Instead, you use silent, unblinking eye contact. He tells a story about a woman trying to compare him to another man just to make him jealous.
And he didn't say a word.
Not a syllable. He just stared at her. No smile, no anger, just a dead-eyed, neutral stare for 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Do you know how long that is in a conversation? That is an eternity.
That is the whole point.
Yeah.
It forces the other person to sit in the discomfort of their own behavior.
So what happened?
He says eventually she started squirming, looking down, and finally apologized. He argues that silence is the ultimate assertion of dominance because it shows you're not rattled. You are the immovable object.
And for, like, longer-term conflict, he mentions the gray rock method.
Right. This is for when you're dealing with a partner who thrives on drama.
You become a gray rock.
You become as boring and uninteresting as a rock. If she sends you a wall of text trying to start a fight, you don't argue back. You give her absolutely nothing to latch onto.
He mentions replying to frantic texts in 12-hour gaps.
12 hours.
12 hours. If I did that, my phone would literally blow up.
Riker would say, let it blow up. His response would just be, okay, or fine.
That's it.
That's it. He claims he saved 6 months of therapy bills just by becoming boring.
The logic is that manipulators need fuel. They need your emotional reaction. If you starve them of that fuel, they eventually starve.
It's all about emotional discipline.
Eh.
But Riker doesn't just keep this at the level of, bad relationships. He zooms way out.
Way out.
He argues that the reason relationships are this way is because the entire system has been captured. He calls modern feminism Marxism with lipstick. Okay, so this is where we need to unpack the history a bit, because he isn't just throwing words around.
No, he's specific.
He's referencing a specific political strategy. He talks about Antonio Gramsci.
Italian communist, right?
That's the one. Gramsci wrote his prison notebooks back in the 1930s. And he realized that violent revolution doesn't work in the West because the culture is too strong.
So you have to go from the inside.
Exactly. He proposed the long march through the institutions. The idea is to slowly infiltrate and take over the schools, the media, the courts, and HR departments. Riker argues this has already happened.
And these institutions that used to protect merit and order have been captured by an ideology that sees men as the enemy class.
That's his argument. So when he says Marxism with lipstick, he means it's the same oppressor versus oppressed narrative.
Just swapped from rich versus poor to men versus women.
Precisely. And he brings receipts. He points to specific laws that he claims were designed to dismantle men's lives. The biggest one he highlights is the Bradley Amendment from 1986.
He calls this the financial guillotine. I actually had to look this up because it sounds insane, but he's right.
It is terrifying. The Bradley Amendment made child support arrears non-dischargeable in bankruptcy.
So just think about what that means.
Right. In America, if a business fails or you make a bad investment, you can declare bankruptcy and start over. But if you fall behind on child support,
Even if you lost your job.
or got cancer, or were in a coma, that debt is cemented. It follows you forever. The government can take your driver's license, your passport, your professional license. Riker says this treats men as guilty until proven bankrupt, and even then, there's no relief.
He also goes after the Equal Pay Act and Title IX. I think most people just think Title IX is about, like, women's soccer.
But he says it's been weaponized on college campuses. He argues it's been completely flipped.
From equal access to what?
They're targeting men. He cites data showing that by 2020, 75% of campus sexual misconduct investigations targeted men.
75%.
Yeah. He describes these secret tribunals where men are denied due process, denied lawyers, and expelled on the flimsiest evidence. He calls it a guilty until proven innocent system that destroys young men's futures before they even start.
So this creates what he calls the innocence hierarchy.
Exactly. Women and children are at the top, protected at all costs. Men are at the bottom, disposable.
And he uses that comparison with health funding to prove it.
It's a really stark comparison. Look at the resources poured into breast cancer awareness or programs for queer youth resilience.
Billions in funding.
Billions. Then look at the boy crisis. Boys are dropping out of school at record rates. They make up 70% of D and F grades. They account for the vast majority of suicides.
And Riker asks, where is the government task force for boys?
It doesn't exist. He says the system is happy to let men fail.
That silence from the institutions is deafening.
It is.
And that's why he pivots to the only solution he thinks works: economic autonomy. He just says, money is power.
I mean, if the system won't protect you, you have to buy your own protection.
He is incredibly blunt here. He tells young men, stop apologizing for wanting to be rich.
And stop playing house in your 20s. He's very against joint bank accounts, calls them a massive security breach. But his main advice is about the grind gap.
This is the part where he says, your 20s are for grinding, not groveling. He tells that story of Chris Sacca.
It's a great example. Chris Sacca is a billionaire now, famous for being an early investor in Uber and Twitter.
But his 20s.
In his 20s, he wasn't out dating or trying to be the cool guy at the club. He was sleeping on a floor, broke, maxing out credit cards to buy tiny stakes in companies he believed in. He was obsessed.
And Riker uses that to illustrate the compounding returns of competence.
Right. While other guys were chasing girls, which Riker sees as a depreciating asset, Sacca was building equity.
He calls this a neurological necessity.
He does. He argues that the dopamine hit a man gets from building something, writing code, closing a deal, fixing a car, is superior to the dopamine from female validation.
He says learning Python at 28 can triple your income by 32. That's leverage.
Swipe left on Tinder, swipe right on your career.
And the end goal of all this grinding, it's not just to get a hotter wife, it's to become the autonomous man.
This shocked me, but he cites Gallup data stating that single men are actually 22% happier than married men.
So society tells us the lonely bachelor is miserable. Riker says, no, he's free.
And that freedom allows for geo-arbitrage. This is a huge part of the book's strategy. If the Western world, the US, UK, Canada, has become hostile to men legally and culturally, Riker says, leave.
The passport bro strategy.
But sophisticated. He talks about the Portugal D7 visa, which allows you to live in Europe if you have passive income.
He mentions men living in Thailand or in converted buses in Iceland, villas in Bali.
He calls it defecting from the system. Why pay 50% in taxes to a country that hates you? He says, starve the beast.
It's voting with your feet. And he holds up guys like Nikola Tesla and Isaac Newton as the ultimate archetypes.
The marriage penalty tax, that's what he calls it. Tesla and Newton, they never married. Their focus was never split.
And he admires them for it.
Not just for their genius, but for their refusal to be distracted by the biological imperative to breed. He suggests that if a man wants to leave a real legacy, he might have to walk that solitary path.
Now, we have to talk about the fathers. This is really the emotional core of the book.
It is.
Riker claims there's an active war on fathers designed to erase male authority from the family.
And he believes the family court system is the enforcement arm of that war. He tells the story of Marcus Thompson. This is a hard one to hear.
The father in Ohio.
Yeah. The father in Ohio who climbed a 300-foot construction crane.
He sat up there for 18 hours.
People on the ground thought he was crazy or suicidal. Riker says he was neither. He was just desperate.
He'd been stripped of his rights.
Stripped of his rights to see his kids, drained of his money, completely silenced. Climbing that crane was the only way he could get anyone to even look at him.
And Riker uses that image, a man alone in the freezing wind, 300 feet in the air, as a symbol of the modern father's plight.
But he doesn't want men to just end up on a crane. He proposes a counter strategy. He calls it parallel worlds.
This is actually brilliant.
It is. The standard advice is fight for your kids in court. Riker says you will lose. The court is rigged.
So what do you do?
Instead, he says to build a parallel world. If the mother alienates the children, or the court restricts access, you don't give up, but you don't play their game. You build a legacy outside of it.
He tells that story of the woodworking father.
Right. This guy was denied in-person visits. So he started a YouTube channel and a live stream from his workshop.
And he just taught woodworking.
He taught woodworking, joinery, patience. And he spoke to the camera as if he was speaking to his son. Here's how we bevel this edge, son.
And thousands of people started watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He built this massive digital archive of his skills, his voice, his love. The mother couldn't stop it. The court couldn't issue an injunction against the YouTube channel.
And his point is that eventually the son grew up.
Found the videos and realized who his father really was. Influence doesn't require permission. It requires production.
That is such a powerful workaround. It leads to his final call to action, which is to be the patriarch. And he knows that word triggers people.
Oh, he loves that it triggers people. He argues we need to reclaim it. He points to the Amish community.
Okay.
You can say what you want about their technology, but Riker points out they have traditional gender roles, strong patriarchal leadership, and as a result,
Zero divorce.
virtually zero crime, no drug addiction. Riker argues that patriarchy isn't oppression, it's order, it's protection.
He basically says that when men step down, chaos steps in. And he has zero patience for modern therapy's attempt to fix men by making them act like women.
He says therapy infantilizes men. Sitting on a couch discussing your trauma is a waste of time, in his view.
So what's the alternative?
He advocates for the weight room or the garage at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
He uses Chris Kyle, the American sniper, as the model.
The mission, not the feelings.
Right. Chris Kyle didn't heal by crying about the war. He healed by helping other vets, by finding a new mission. Riker argues men process pain through action. You don't talk your way out of depression, you work your way out of it.
You build your body, you build your business, you build your empire.
That is the cure.
So let's bring this all home. What's the big picture here? We've unpacked the nice guy lie, the capture of institutions, the financial guillotine, and the strategy of the autonomous man.
The book is a wake-up call. It's an attempt to snap men out of what Riker calls a fever dream of equality and romance. He believes the world is getting harder, not easier, for men.
And his final thought.
It's provocative. He says the future isn't woke. The pendulum will swing back. But it won't be won by the men complaining on Twitter. It will be won by men who refuse to disappear.
Who refuse to apologize for their nature.
Men who build their own empires in silence and let the results do the talking.
That is a heavy, heavy note to end on, but it is exactly why this book is making waves. It just refuses to compromise.
It really does.
Listen, if this deep dive sparks something in you, whether it's anger, agreement, or just a realization that you need to sharpen your game, you owe it to yourself to read the source material. We've just scratched the surface.
Absolutely.
Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now, search for Redpilled Father Lessons for Life about out-of-control women. Buy it. Read it. It's the manual you didn't get at birth.
And Conrad Riker is constantly putting out new analysis on the state of the world. If you want the raw feed, you need to follow him at Conrad Riker on Substack.
What's his tagline?
He promises truth that hits harder than a divorce lawyer. And frankly, after reading this, I believe him.
Absolutely. Go check him out. And finally, if you appreciate us having the guts to cover books like this, books that other shows might be afraid to touch, please like and subscribe to The Deep Dive.
It helps us keep the lights on and keeps the truth coming.
It does. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay dangerous and keep building.